Hello and welcome to my studio. In this video I'm going to show you how I made this picture. The whole look of this picture is due to careful consideration of all the elements within it, and of course good lighting technique. With some more refinements in post-production, the image becomes the picture. And in this video I'm going to show you exactly how I did it. So I'm going to be using this full-frame digital SLR to capture the images, and this has a 24-70 zoom lens on the front of it. On the top here I have a flash sync trigger, which is also capable of controlling the energy in the studio flash. The whole thing is tethered into Capture One software, so it's easy to see the results as we go along, and also I can completely control the camera from the computer. Okay, so at the back here I have a tripod set up, and basically this is a type of flat lay photography. So what I'm going to try and do here is position the camera directly over the top of the subject. So on the top of this tripod I have this geared head. So what I'm going to do is position the camera parallel to the surface of this board here. And now with the aid of the center column I can wind up the camera so that I'm directly over the top of the subject, hopefully. So about there somewhere should do, I think, for now. Okay, so with that bit set, the next thing to do would be to think about what sort of background I want. Now the whole look of the image, as I said earlier, is due to the elements that are within it. So starting with the base, I have a couple of choices here of some tile or a piece of slate. Now the tile's okay, and it does have a certain amount of surface quality to it, but I don't think it will actually suit the rest of the picture. So I'm not going to use that, and instead I'm going to use this piece of slate. So we'll pop the slate down on here, and now I'll just get the main subject, which will be the spoon and the sloe berries. So here we are. I have a few sloes and a old silver spoon, which has some nice tarnishing to it. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is just check the image in the viewfinder on the camera. Just to zoom that in a bit on the lens on the camera, and having looked at the surface quality here, what I might do is just turn this slate right round like that. So I think that might be slightly better. Something like that anyway. And I'll just zoom that in a little more. Like so. And now we'll position the elements. So I'll start with this spoon. There we go. And now I'll put some elements around it. So I have this small twig. I'm just going to place it out here somewhere. I'll grab some sloes. Just put them in the spoon. And maybe one or two around the sides, like so. There we go. Okay, so I think that will do to start with. So the next thing I'm going to do, just using the house lights, is just grab a test image just to see what we've got. So on the computer here I can see the settings as they are on the camera. So at the moment I have a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second with an aperture of 2.8 at 100 ISO. So I'll just grab an image. So that has established a starting point as far as the composition is concerned, but it's also highlighting the amount of illumination coming from the house lights. Now a lot of this can be cut out by increasing the shutter speed from 1/50th of a second to the flash sync speed for the camera, which is 1/250th of a second. But yet more can be taken out by moving the aperture from 2.8 to a more usable, shall we say for this shot, f16. I want quite a large depth of field, so I think f16 will be good from that point of view, but it will also cut out a lot of this light. So we'll just try that again. Excellent. So there we go, completely black image. So all the light that we will see in the picture will come from the studio flash, which I'm going to set up to take the picture with. So here we are. This is a Profoto D2 studio flash. This is a 1000 joule mains powered flash head, has modeling light built into it and is fully controllable from the flash sync trigger here. So I'll just turn this flash sync trigger on, so, and I've just set the energy to about 5, which is about half scale on this head. Okay, so with all that done, let's just grab an image now with the flash. Okay, so we can see that the exposure is not bad actually for this image, although the quality of light is maybe not quite suited as it is right now. But it's interesting to see that the shadows cast by these berries are not particularly sharp. If I just zoom in a little and have a look at that, you can see that they have a soft edge. Now that is because of the distance the flash is from the subject and the size of this flash head. This is about 100 millimeters across, but it's actually well within the range where this will not be a point light source. That's why the shadows are quite soft. So if I wanted to make the shadows harder, what I need to do is move this light further away. So if I just move it back here, for instance, and keep it at about the same angle, I'll just take that up in the air, probably about there somewhere. It's looking about right. Now obviously I've moved it quite a distance away, so I'm going to need to increase the energy to make up for that. So it was on 5, I'll turn that up to, shall we say, 7 to start with, and we'll just see what that looks like. There we are. We can see now that the shadows have got a lot sharper. If I go backwards and forwards from what we had before, which was this with a soft shadow, to this with a hard shadow. Now I know the shadows aren't quite in the same place. That's because the light isn't literally in exactly the same place. So if I just move out, what that has done is hardened up all of this background. But obviously it's hardened up all of the main subject as well. Okay, so what I need to do now is find a way of softening the light a little, but yet keeping some of the hardness that I've got from this lighting position. So what I'm going to do is just set up a diffuser about here somewhere. So here we are. This is a C-stand with a grip arm on it. So what I'm going to do is just arrange the arm so it's round here somewhere like that. Just tighten that up. Pop that up in the air a bit. And now I'll just put this roll of diffusion material on the arm like that. Just pull that down like so. There we go. Just swing that round slightly out there. Okay, so with this in position, it will take some of the energy out of the system. So I may need to adjust this. I'll just turn it up for 1 stop at the moment. There we are. That's softened it off considerably, possibly too much, but it shows just what you can do. So this is what we had before, and this is what we've got now. Okay, so what I need to do then is adjust the position of this so that I can have that balance between the hardness of no diffuser and the diffuser itself. You can't do this with a normal softbox. This is the only way to have this amount of control. So what I'm going to do is just move this back a little so it's closer to the light. Might just put that up a bit as well, just to make sure it's covering the right area, like that. There we are. Okay. So with this in this sort of position, I'll just grab another image. There we go. That has changed the nature of the image quite a bit. If I go back to the previous image, you can see that the quality of the shadow from this image has changed in this one. So it's become a cross between being very hard and soft. Okay, so this does show just what control you have over the quality of the light with this sort of setup. But what you can also do is change the way this light interacts with the diffusion material. Let me show you what I mean. If I just turn the modelling light on for a second, like so, now you should be able to see on here the pattern caused by the light. So if I now just change that by putting this reflector on the light, just to concentrate it a bit, so if I put it on there for instance, like that, you should now see that we've got much more of a hot spot, which will give a different quality of light again. So what I'll do is, with that in place, I'll just grab another image. There we go. Now it's obviously a little bit brighter. That's because we've made the actual light itself a bit more efficient by putting this reflector on. So I'm just going to take a stop out of that, like so, and we'll grab that again. There we are, that's better. And you can see now that we've got quite a lot of nice detail in the slate at the background due to the hardness of the light, yet still we have retained very soft shadows, which is what I want for the rest of the subject. Okay, so with that now captured, it's just time to go into Photoshop and do some post-production. So here we are in Photoshop with the file that we captured earlier open. Right, first thing we're going to do is just make a copy. So I've just right-clicked on the layer, come down to duplicate layer, but I'm going to make a new document. So we'll call this Spoon. There we go. So this is the new document, and this is what we'll be editing. This one is the camera original, which we won't be touching at all. So, having done that, I'm just going to now duplicate that layer in the normal way, like that, just to give me a different layer to edit, which is going to be this one. Okay, so first thing to do then, just to add a bit more texture to the whole thing, I'm going to add some film grain. Now there are various different ways to do this, but one of the simplest is just to go to the filter control at the top here and select Camera Raw Filter, which will then open the file in this Camera Raw environment. Now at the bottom here we have an effects slider, so if I just click on that, I can now add some film grain. So if I just add an arbitrary amount to start with, just to make the other parameters active, and I'm just going to wind up the actual grain to about 70 odd somewhere around there, maybe 75, see what that looks like. You do have to be quite careful with these controls because if you go too far, for instance, if I make the size too big, it'll just make the whole thing fuzzy. But if you just use a bit of care, we should be able to create the required outcome. What I'm looking for is something just a bit gritty, like that. I think that's pretty good. So with that all done, I'll just click on OK. There we are. So we still have the original underneath, and we've got the edit one on top. All right. So the next thing I'm going to do is just straighten up the spoon a bit and maybe crop the image. So I'm just going to go to the crop tool, and to straighten the spoon, I'm just going to use the straighten icon at the top here. Just click on that. And now I'm just going to draw a line along the center of the spoon, like so. There we are. So that's just straightened that up a little. And just to give me some room to move around, I'm just going to make the actual image size a bit smaller, like that. In fact, what I might do is just change to a specific ratio. So we'll go for 16:9. Okay, and now I'll just move the image around until I'm happy with it. So something like that I think is quite nice. Okay. Right, that's looking pretty good. I think I'd like to just add a vignette around the outside of this. There are lots of different ways to do vignettes. I'll just show one of the common ways, which is just to add a new layer, and it's this layer that I'm going to make the vignette. So initially what I'm going to do is just fill that with black. So making sure that the foreground color is set to black, pick the paint bucket and just fill that in like so. Okay, now I'm going to add a layer mask to that. So now wherever I paint in black on this, it will actually reveal what's underneath it. So if I just pick a paintbrush and make that quite large, maybe a bit bigger still. There we are. And then just carefully we'll just click here, which will reveal the image underneath it, like so. There. I think that's worked very well. And there we have it. By paying careful attention to all of the elements within the image and all of the tones so that they all match, we've ended up with what is a very nice study. The addition of the vignette and the grain has really added to the overall look and feel for this image. And I think it's worked very, very well. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed watching how I made that image, and if you like watching these sort of things, do click on the other images as they appear, and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.